Hello everyone. Today is Memorial Day in US, and to memorize those who sacrificed in the past wars mostly, but they also include people who passed away during the pandemic, the current pandemic. Okay, America is said to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, the land of free. Okay, so today it took a special meaning in our lecture about the absolute, life and the absolute. All right, as in the past. Oh, okay, I have this here. I cannot write it anymore. Well, think about this. The freedom is a thing that you need to sacrifice your life for. But it's probably not that important for the Chinese. Mostly, if you ask Chinese, and what does that mean? To be the home of the brave and the land of free. They probably shrug their shoulders and they don't understand. Their proverb is rather than die, rather to live like a dog rather than die. 好死不如赖活，宁做太平犬，不做乱世人. That's a Chinese wisdom, quote unquote. All right, so it's totally the opposite of what Americans believe. So this culture really has some problem, trust me. All right, but anyway, we are talking about the freedom of thought. All right, that's most important here. We are talking about. Speaking of the freedom, if you can watch this lecture, probably you are in the West, I believe. If you are from China, you know what authoritarian government is like, right? They restrict many things in their society. How you behave, how you say what you say, how you channel your thoughts, things like that. And in current Hong Kong is a current example of how they try to control the people, to change their lifestyle, all right? That's a vivid example how they want to control you. When you are out of China, you probably feel that the freedom. And when you are in the West, you know what freedom feels like. On the other hand, you also have this restriction on your mind, on your concepts. You probably do not recognize. There's many set values and settled down values. That's what I meant. And that go with you probably till one day you see God. That's probably the case. And this philosophy is to give you a new system of values, let you to evaluate from another point of view. Think about this way. In the long history of human beings, or even the universe, you are living in this spatial temporal world. You are like a particle of the dust of the history. If you don't think anything else like you used to, like many people before you. But this talk or lecture, if you will, gave you the idea that you are much, much more than that. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you that you have the part called absolute, but you don't know that. The absolute part from the double absolute that's localized in your brain. That function produced the first thought in your mind. By the way, have you ever wondered, have you ever raised the question to yourself, where does my first thought come from? How does it come from? How does it come? Did my parents give me first thought? Who gave that to you? Have you ever asked yourself? Well, in my theory, it comes from your brain, because your brain is the absolute part, but you won't recognize it. As I said in the past, there are two parts. One is the logic without limitation, the other is consciousness without limitation. So the logic is like an engine, the consciousness is like where you go, like the captain of the ship. It directs where you go, all right? Because you have the absolute, you have the concept of I, the subject, the ego in you. You know what you are doing, you take responsibility for what you are doing. But I know to realize this is pretty hard. As a matter of fact, I don't think anyone, including philosophers before me, ever raised the question, ever had the concept of double absolute. It's like, how hard it is, you may ask. Well, it's like this. It's like you ask a fish what water is. You ask a bird what air is. You want to feel it. You ask somebody what is a thing, what is something. Can you imagine the something does not exist? Actually, I cannot even say this, because something can disappear, but everything cannot, right? Can you imagine everything disappear? Can you imagine that? Actually, when we talk about everything, we mean everything in the dimension of a spatial temporal world. In other words, we are thinking without this macro world, MA I call it, macro world, MA, there's no world at all. So people had, in the past, the question, is the mathematics true? Is the law, let's say gravity from Newton or relativity from Einstein, true? If they are true, where does it come from? Is my dream true? There's no space, no time. So the theory of Instancology tells you it's in the MI world, micro world, all right? These two worlds came from the background. I put a dot here, that means the background. From there, like everything else, it has a background. But what's special about the double A is the background is not something. So you cannot say it because it goes beyond the language, the limitation of language. Language is used to express something or express the absence of something, but it cannot eliminate itself. It cannot go beyond its own self. Language is a thing. Speaking of that, I want to correct one thing, and I said last time. When we say language or logic or mathematics in the MA world, what I meant here is the symbols we use to write logic, write language, like alphabets, the numerals, like Arabic numerals, or Indians 0, these are the symbols. But the meaning under it is in another world. You believe that a mathematical function can be expressed in different symbols, right? Either the decimal system or the binary system. They are convertible into each other, interchangeable in another word. So what's underneath of it? That is a truth. I call it relative truth. It is in this macro world, okay? So the symbols in MA world, the underneath, the meaning is in the MI world. So I want to make that clear to you. In this world of MA, we have everything timed. Something comes, something goes. Generation by generation, one day it will come up, one day it disappeared. That's a reality. But in this world, MI world, since there's no time, so it's always there. They are created by the Absolute somehow. I don't know how, but somehow it's there. And it made a copy of itself and flew into this micro world, MA world. I believe the connection of the two is movement. If you want to know more about my theory, the Instancology, you have to read the book. I believe that's the truth. For the MA or MI, these two worlds basically constitute our reality. That's in the history what we know. For example, in the MI world, there's Plato's form, all right? Or you may say Parmenides' being in this MI world, or Kant's noumena is in this MI world, okay? But the science, whatever the object of science, is in the MA world, in time and space, like we are. Beyond these two, to trace the source, the origin, we go to the absolutely absolute. I call it double A. So we have a logical way to go down level by level, like the French philosopher, the father of the modern science or philosophy, Descartes, did. But the difference is now we go deeper, we go wider to more extensible extension of what Descartes did. We go beyond that. Descartes stops at the brain, at the thinking. Descartes didn't ask the question, where does thought come from? But Instancology does. Why you can distinguish thought, one thought from another? Is there a space? No. That's called 思在. That's a thinking. Last lecture I pointed out, it's in the I world. Who produced the thought? The brain. Who gave the brain that function? The absolute. Absolute is not material. You cannot see it. I know some surgeon opened 1,000 of human brains, cannot find any trace of thought. You know why? Because thoughts are non-material. In other words, you cannot tell the difference between the human brain than, say, an animal's brain. Whatever in human brain, you can find it in animal's brain. No material difference. No like a storage place for thought or memory put it there. No. No consciousness. You cannot find the place for consciousness. Because absolute is not material. That's why, of course, there's many details of science needs to know, to study how that can be. But that's all beyond the realm of philosophy. I don't know either. I'm just speaking from the point of view of philosophy, not from the point of view of medical science. Okay? Or anatomy. It's not. Okay, that's a basically brief description how we treat this, the absolute. I hope you get the point. You realize this is true. It is something you have to think about that. It's not something out of my own imagination. It's not something, it's personal fancy. One day I dreamed of it. No. As a matter of fact, if you're not familiar with Western philosophy, you are not especially familiar with the Parmenides thought, Plato thought, and more important, the German philosophies like Kant and especially Hegel thought, to a lesser degree Heidegger thought, you cannot even understand this double absolute. What this guy is talking about? You probably have that idea. Well, you come to the wrong place then, if you think that way. You are wasting your time. But if you are curious, if you believe that you are searching the truth, you want to see the realization of a human being, you'll come to the right place. Okay, let me next talk about what benefit you have as an amateur, not as a philosopher, all right? Hopefully, you will feel so too. You didn't waste your time to come here. First, you have a field other than philosophy, I suppose. Do you have difficulties in that field? I bet you do. Are you the number one in that field? I bet you probably not, 99%. Do you have a problem making money? I believe probably you do. All right. This Instancology tells you no matter what difficulty, no matter what problem you have, no matter what seemingly unsalutable things you have, you have a way to overcome it because you have the brain power of the Absolute. That is a bigger, much powerful thing to overcome any relative problems. Anything, if it's a thing, if it exists, it's relative. Relative is no match for the Absolute. That's why relative things always change. They have to. Okay? So if you want to solve the problem, you tried very hard, you try many other ways, you can find a solution. I know a lot of other people in whatever field they are in, the leaders of that field, they don't know the concept of the Absolute, but they succeeded. Why? Because they keep trying. It's the same effect. You keep trying, and you succeed. You work hard enough, you succeed. So I'm saying the foundation, the basic idea, the basic support are from the Absolute. You realize it or not. You act as if you know it. But listening to this talk here, the theory itself, it just tells you directly you have that absolute power. Isn't that a good thing? Okay, hopefully that's a useful part of this knowing the double A. All right? And the more beneficial to you from knowing the absolutely absolute probably is, as I said, philosophy is the geometry of the world. Instancology is the axiom of philosophy. It's a base. It's a foundation. It gives everything which is relative. If it exists, it is relative. The background is double A, is absolute. So it pop you up, it sends you over to a sublime height. To let you see over everything under you. Your life, your family, your society, your culture, your country, your human race, the history of nature, the earth, the solar system, the Milky Way, the galaxies, the entire universe, the Big Bang, the black hole, the antimatters. Whatever there, it's included in the system of the two worlds with the background of AA. It gives you life a new meaning. Let you see it with a new angle. As a matter of fact, it is the essence of your brain. Your brain wants to know the truth, the essence. Have you ever thought about this? Now you struggle for food, for shelter, for all the material needs. One day, science will be so developed, the basic human physical needs, like food, shelter, cars, or even probably marriage, all the physical needs will be solved very easily. It becomes human rights. You have a right to eat. You have a right to have a house to live in. All right? Then what do we do? That's the time to start to satisfy the needs of the brain. You are not only fighting each other for glory or group worship or something, like a demagogue or something. You go even further than the psychological needs of your group. You try to seek the satisfaction of your brain. I believe that's the future. One day you will. So rather than spend all your life just to be useful, just to make money, just to satisfy your material needs, like some tycoon, some big business guy who got in Macau, the guy who got so rich he married 4 wives, and eventually when he died, all the wives struggled to compete for his inheritance. What a stupid life. What's the difference than an animal? A pig accumulates enough food and waiting to eat them, but he didn't finish it. He died earlier, maybe eaten by humans. I don't know. But what's the difference? You accumulate tons of money for what? That's called material needs. How many rich people in the 1,500 Roman Empire period? How many rich people? Do you remember any of them? Tell me a name of the richest Roman citizen or aristocracy. Tell me a name. Probably you don't. But everybody knows Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. Why? Because they are the spirit leader. As long as the human race exists, their name will be remembered. They lived much, much longer than the material wealth creators. Well, don't get me wrong. I don't mean that you shouldn't create material wealth. That's convenience for you to live by. My point is, there's a limit we should not do everything for material needs. That's my point. You have your share. You satisfy your share. Don't neglect other needs of your brain. That's my point. So from this point of view, that's the most beneficial part of knowing the theory of instancology. I hope you get my point. All right? Good luck for you in future. If you have questions, write it down. Okay? Thank you for listening. Hopefully I didn't waste your time. Good luck.